My next guest is Justin Sherwood. He's the Senior Vice President of Research, Stakeholder Relations, and Communications at BUILD. And BUILD stands for the Building Industry and Land Development Association. We know that construction starts are slowing, and we know that pre-construction sales have stalled. Justin is now going to be joining me. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Good morning, Deval. I'm well, thank you. It's beautiful, sunny Sunday. Cold, but beautiful.
Yes, very cold. So before we talk about why you want the development charges reduced, can you just define for us what are development charges? Because a lot of people don't know, and we sort of throw that term around a lot.
Yeah, so development charges are fees that municipalities under provincial law are allowed to apply to new homes to offset the cost of providing hard and soft services for growing communities. And hard services are things like roads, rapid transit or transit infrastructure, community centers, those types of things. And then soft services are things like ambulance services, police services, daycares, and things like that.
And so do you think it's fair that, maybe it's a bit of a loaded question for you, but do you think it's fair that the cost of that is borne by people who are buying condos in the city versus everybody in the city who's enjoying those things?
Well, let's take a step back. I think the answer is development charges are absolutely necessary. You can't build housing if you don't have the right infrastructure in place to support it. And so we don't dispute the need for there to be development charges. In fact, they have very, very many beneficial aspects. The challenge becomes when the costs get to what the costs are now. Are they right? Are they just? And to what extent are new home buyers subsidizing other or existing city dwellers? And our perspective is development charges have gone up so far and so fast, and they are in the GTA they're the highest in North America by far. That there's really a need to have a proper conversation and take a look at how that's impacting the cost of new homes and eroding affordability.
And so generally when costs go up, we sort of expect costs to go up by let's say the rate of inflation. So it could be, 3%, 4%, 5%. In the last few years, how high have development charges crept up?
Well, that's an interesting question because they're municipally set, and so they go up at different rates in different municipalities. But let's use Toronto as an example. Since 1999, development charges in the city of Toronto have gone up by 6,000%.
Oh, God.
To put that into a perspective, a $1 cup of coffee in 1999 would cost $60 today, or a $20,000 Honda Civic in 1999 would be $1.22 million today if those same rates of increase would be applied. On average, they've gone up by about 350% in the last decade and a half in the GTA on average.
Wow. So right now we have a lot of construction that's quite frankly not even happening simply because of a number of different economic factors. So, it's interesting that development charges have gone up so much. They want to make money off the developers, but nobody's building, so they can't make money off the developers. So what would your suggestion be to improve things?
Well, I think you're very right. There's a cost to build crisis occurring right now, which is market prices have moderated somewhat in the last 2 years, but construction costs straight across all of the sort of buckets that you would put into construction have gone up significantly, and that leads to a mismatch between what it costs to produce and what the market will absorb. And housing construction is stalling out, and housing starts are falling and will continue to fall. There are two very simple policy things that can occur right now in order to unstick this situation and get housing moving, and that will have obviously quite uncertain economic times, economic benefit, because those are 100% domestic Canadian jobs, and a lot of the materials are sourced domestically. But quite simply, we're moving the HST in on new homes, and we are seeing some movement with both the federal Conservatives and the Prime Minister recently committing to doing that, and that will have a positive impact and also lower costs to the end consumer. And the other is to lower development charges. And we've seen municipalities like Vaughan and Mississauga and Burlington already lower their development charges. And quite frankly, that's what's necessary across the GTA, especially within the City of Toronto. And there hasn't been really a significant movement on that yet in the City of Toronto.
Right. And so development charges is one thing, but you're talking about all the other costs that developers face. And actually one thing you hadn't mentioned is labor. In terms of, is the government doing enough to get developers the right labor in our country so that they can continue to build?
Skilled labor, especially if you take a look at the demographics of the workforce, is always a challenge. I mean, our industry is a very, very significant employer. Our industry in the GTA alone employs about 250,000 people. But you're right. Getting young people into skilled trades as a career destination is obviously an important thing. Training, and then, of course, immigration and immigration policies that are at least in part attracting workers who will help build the homes that we need to accommodate that immigration.
And so they've recently changed the immigration policies. Have those changes helped or hurt your industry in terms of being able to find the right workers to help build?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on immigration policy, so I can't comment other than in the generalities that I already commented.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, it's funny. So I live at Yonge and Eglinton, and there's probably at least 5, maybe 10 condos going up for construction around my house. So I literally every single morning at 6:30 see all the guys go to work with their big lunch pails. So I am seeing it in real time in terms of how many workers are affected when I see them go for work as I'm walking to the gym every morning. One of the things that people always talk about, and they talk about family-sized condos and purpose-built rentals. What are some of the reasons why building a family-sized condo is not 1,000% possible? I guess it is more difficult than it would seem on paper.
Well, building high-rise is an expensive form of construction. So when you take a look and you break down some of the costs that go into it, it works out to about $1,200 to $1,300 a square foot at present cost structure, the cost structure of today. And so if you're looking at a family-sized condo being, let's just say, 1,000 square feet, the cost that ends up being to the end consumer is $1.3, $1.4 million. And so in order to be able to bring family-size units from an apartment perspective forward in a way that the market is likely to absorb them and buy them, I think we need to take a look at how we can change tax, policy structure, other things, approvals, all these other things, so that we can strip out some of that cost so that they can be produced at a rate that people will buy them.
Right. Because, at the price of 1.2 or 1.3 or 1.4 million, they're going to buy a house because it is possible to buy a house in the city for less than that price. So I have to believe that a lot of people at that price point, they're not going to opt for a condo. They'll just buy a house because they'll get more space and they won't have to spend as much money. Yeah,
what gets built is a reflection of what people will buy.
Absolutely. Justin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That's all the time we've got.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. That was Justin Sherwood, Senior Vice President of Research, Stakeholder Relations, and Communications at BUILD. And BUILD stands for the Building Industry and Land Development Association, just giving everybody some more insights about development charges and why family-sized condos sometimes, as much as people talk about them, are not as practical as you might imagine.